This girl opens her laptop just to get a message from her classmate saying she's ugly and she should kill herself. They turned all her photos into memes of dirty animals like pig, just to try and make her go crazy. But everything changed this girl's life forever when she receives message in her laptop from an unknown person, who offers to help her out. The show all begins with a girl called Maddie, a girl who has always been bullied by her classmates in school. She is never being happy because her dad died of cancer, and she hasn't gotten over it. After returning from a really terrible day in school, and lying to her grandma that her school activities is fine and enjoyable, she gets a message from her laptop from an anonymous person. The hacker only chats with her using emojis, and introduces himself as the ghost. A very heavy rain was falling that night as Maddie and the mysterious person were chatting. She expresses her sadness on how she has been bullied in school for some time now, and even her mother doesn't pay attention to her. By using emojis, the hacker says he will help her out, and her laptop suddenly switches off. Maddie resumes school the next morning, but witnesses something really extraordinary. As all the students' phones were being hacked, and all their secret messages and photos were being sent to one another, turning the students against themselves, Maddie knew that it was no other person than the anonymous hacker whom she chatted with. She hurries back home to send a message to the mysterious person, and confirmed he was actually the one who did it. She suddenly asks him why he is so interested in helping her. Maddie's mom, called Ellen, stops to check on her daughter who hasn't come out of her room all day. She notices Maddie chatting with a mysterious person online, and overreacted by taking over the computer, and asking the mysterious person on what he wants with her daughter. The mysterious person replies with a specific line in poetry using emojis, making her mother to be disheartened, as she hurries out of her room. Maddie, who is confused and curious, follows her mom and eardrops her mother, who talks to someone on the phone, asking a man named Dr. Waxman on what they have done with her husband. Maddie's dad died from a sickness, but could he be the one chatting with her on the computer? The story then changes, taking our attention to another weird student called Caspian. This boy might be the most awkward person when it comes to socializing with people, especially with girls. But believe it or not, he is a genius in mathematics, and even a professional in operating computers. He enters his room after a really long stressful day in school, and checks a chat room in his computer where he sees a message of Maddie, who is requesting for help and answers online, wanting to know how her dead father was able to communicate with her from his grave. He chatted Maddie up, showing interest to help her out. She shows him proof by sending a screenshot of the chat she had with the stranger, believing that a company called Logarithms, where her father was formerly working, must have faked his death and is now holding him captive. Caspian examines the messages, but without his knowledge, a group of people were overseeing his every activities. Maddie remembers her tender age with her late father, who told her not to always believe anything she's being told, but it will do her more benefits if she finds the truths herself. Her mom, Ellen, later shows up to have a talk with her daughter concerning the messages from the anonymous person. Maddie suggested that they should call the cops and start searching for her dad, but Ellen angrily closes the argument, saying her husband is already dead and there is nothing that can be done to revive him. In a very emotional state, she meets up with her boyfriend Gabe, whom she fell in love with after her husband died. Gary convinces her that everything will absolutely be alright. The story suddenly changes to another man called Mr. Shanda, a scientist who works for a man called Prasad. He speaks to an unknown CEO about his new invention called the UI, which means uploaded intelligence, which he can use with his knowledge to transform the society for good. He says something about uploading the human brains and consciousness into a computer. The CEO, being so impressed with his ideas, proposes a really huge and unexpected amount of money, telling him to abandon his boss and join their company. Shanda shakes hands, indicating his agreement to their offer. As soon as the meeting was ended, Shanda enters his car only to be drugged by a mysterious person who kidnaps him. The scene suddenly returns the Caspian story. He is having a meal with his both parents, called Renee and Gary. His dad Gary scolds his wife concerning how terrible she is at cooking, and then decided to put Caspian intelligence into test, as he aspires to be a computer programmer, which he is against with. Because in their country, that kind of professional only ends up becoming a teacher, which he doesn't want. Gary and his wife suddenly began an argument, tossing the plates against the walls. Caspian lives the scene and goes inside the bedroom. To our surprise, the argument between Caspian's parents were just acting, which leaves us with the question on why they would pretend to be fighting in front of Caspian. The next episode begins with a flashback, where we hear a voice of Maddie's father, who compares each stages of baby's growth to that of a computer. Maddie's father is revealed to be called David, who was visited by his best friend named Peter, who showed up to persuade him into joining the company he now works for called the Logarithms, explaining their new invention called the UI, which is capable of transferring a human brain and consciousness into a computer, granting the possibility of living for eternity. This is just Ellen, narrating to Maddie on her father's history and how he died. She goes on with the story by saying her father David agreed to join the company, and even accepted the proposal of becoming the first human to undergo this experiment. Ellen is against her husband doing this, knowing how dangerous it is, and she doesn't want her husband to be a computer. It is then revealed that David has cancer, and the doctor told him that he only has 4 weeks to live, so instead of spending time with his family in just 1 month, he wanted to make this sacrifice of volunteering and undertaking the experiment, which can grant him the chance to even live forever with his dear wife and daughter. Few days after the experiment proceeded, David's best friend gives Ellen the sad news that her husband wasn't able to survive. Maddie argues with confidence that her dad is still alive, maybe in a computer form or anything. On the other hand, Caspian was chatting with a girl in his school who happens to have a crush on him. He receives a message from Maddie and quickly runs back to his house, where Maddie asked Caspian if he shared information concerning her father to someone else. Because he's the only one she sent it to. Caspian admitted, saying he shared it to someone who can help her. The person username is called the Angry Angel, who suddenly chatted with Maddie, saying they should meet at a location she specified for her. At the secret basement of the Logarithms, we find out that Caspian both parents are working for the company. Their boss is called Julius Pope, and they all happen to find out that Caspian is making researches about their company's secret basement, an invention called the UI, making them really nervous. Meanwhile, that scientist called Shanda, who we saw having a conversation with the unknown CEO, was actually kidnapped by his boss called Prasad, who addresses Shanda as a betrayer for leaving his company and joining his competitors because they offered a huge amount of money. As a revenge for what he did, Prasad decided to use the UI technology to make experiment on Shanda, which means they are going to remove his brains and transfer it on a computer, so he can have control over Shanda, and most especially having access to all his knowledges. Ellen is visited by her late husband best friend Peter, who reveals that her husband is still alive. Peter formerly placed some kind of emotional-based algorithm which made her husband conscious again, but not as a human but as a computer, revealing him to be the stranger who was talking with Maddie online using emojis. Ellen isn't supporting the idea about her husband being a computer, and tells Peter to return all that is remaining of her husband back to her, or she will expose to the public concerning their involvement in her husband's death. While this is going on, Maddie bribes a senior student in her school to accompany her on her meeting with the Angry Angel, in case he is some kind of freak. She sees a man in a mall who introduces himself as Cody, revealing that the actual person that chatted with her is his wife called Lori, with the username known as the Angry Angel. Lori was confirmed dead by the public? He explains to Maddie that his wife Lori was in a coma after an accident, and desperately accepted the option given to him by the Logarithms company by handing her body over to them, and they will save her life by uploading her brain and mind to their computer. Cody testifies that her father David is not actually dead and so is his wife, but their consciousness is in a computer. He proves this by communicating with his wife Lori, who manages to hack into everyone's phone around her, playing Maddie's dad's favorite music. Lori, who is now artificial intelligence along with Maddie's dad, was held captive by the Logarithms company, planning to use them for their evil motives. But Lori had managed to escape, and she reveals she can also free her father too, but she will have to do it with Maddie's help this time around? Because the Logarithms has tightened their security system since her escape. While speaking to her in the phone, she tells Maddie to accompany her mom Ellie to the Logarithms company, who is showing up there to collect the remains of her husband David. Cody gives her a 3D bracelet upon Lori instructions, and told her to activate it once she enters the Logarithms company, which will give his wife Lori the access to hack and free her father from the Logarithms company. Caspian brings his crush from his school to his house so they can do their group assignment. His parents sighted him from afar and started pretending once again as if they are fighting, causing Caspian's friend to run away after seeing this. Maddie is able to convince her mom, who decided to take her along to the Logarithms company, where she meets with the company boss Pope, demanding for her husband remains. As they were talking, Pope opens up his evil nature as he refuses to hand over David's remains to her, saying that David's brain now belongs to them and it's their intellectual property. Ellen threatens on revealing their company to be the reason of their husband's death, but they also threatened her also. Secretly, Maddie activates the bracelet as she is instructed, and Lori began to hack into the company system. Pope suddenly gets a news from his subordinates about their system being hacked, on how millions of dollars are going away from their account every seconds. Maddie tells them all this is her doing, and they have now lost the rights to their company, but tells them she can hand it over to them back if they release her father. Pope realizes that he already lost to a school kid, and decided to give in, after he realizes that Lori is backing her up. He gives all of David's data to her, and their company was revived as promised as soon as they were allowed to leave. As they arrived home, Maddie installs all of David's data to her computer, And to her surprise, she suddenly receives her call from her father. Upon hearing a word from him, Maddie breakdowns in tears. On the other hand, Shanda's brain was successfully uploaded to the logarithm's computer, which made him believe to just be going about his normal working activities. But he is unaware that he was being programmed by his evil boss Prasad, who made him to write down in a lot of pages concerning everything of all the knowledges he has. A kind of ghost suddenly shows up at Shanda's office. They are like spirits who died when this kind of experiment was done to them. They showed him a video on how he was captured, and making him to regain his memories once again on who he really is, realizing he was being used by his boss all these while. Having set her father free, Maddie and David enjoy a father and daughter bonding, as they both play video games together. Although Maddie seems to be really happy on her father's return, Ellen refuses to accept David as the same husband she knew back then because he is now a computer. She refuses to talk to David, which made him so disappointed. On the other hand, Caspian is making researches concerning the founder of the logarithm company called Stephen Holston, and find out the biggest darkest secrets of the company, including their location. His parents Gary and Renee, who are aware of this, suddenly begins with something they have been planning for a long time, by going to a hammer shop to purchase a hammer. They pretended as if they were arguing again, and Renee tells Gary to hit her with the hammer. Gary is hesitant to do such to his wife, so she takes it from him and does it herself. Caspian hurries out when he hears his mother shouting. He sees his mother bleeding and hurries to his father, angrily punching him on the face, and helps his mother to see the doctor. Everything seems to be working according to their plan, as Gary uses the fight as an excuse to stay away from his son, informing his boss that the deed is done. Pope thanks Gary for his hard work, but actually Gary is very unhappy because he is going to miss his son. On the other hand, Maddie tries to bring her parents back together again, by surprising David and Ellen with a date. Her plans didn't work out as Ellen refuses to talk to David, and goes away on her date with her boyfriend Gabe. As they tries to kiss, David, being jealous, hacks both the lights, TV, and devices, which interrupted their moment. Gabe believes Ellen is hiding something from him, but she refuses to speak to him about it. Angrily, Gabe breaks up with Ellen, who decided to finally speak with her husband. With Maddie's help, Ellen got inside a VR video game in form of an avatar Maddie chose for her. There she sees her husband, who also appeared in his avatar. She sincerely tells him that she cannot be in a relationship with him any longer, as he is no longer human but just a computer. David reveals that he still isn't used to being the way he is, but what he knows for now is about the love he has for her and their daughter. Anyway, David, who understands her point of view, agrees in breaking up with her, but they both ended up laughing over it. But Ellen is still interested in talking to David, but just as a friend. But Maddie has left disappointed that her parents aren't getting back together again. On the other hand, Shanda runs away with the friendly ghosts, planning to join forces with other UI intelligence like him, David and Lori, who formerly made their escape. Caspian crush called Hannah apologizes for running away during his parents' argument. He notices she has feelings for him and asked her on a date, and they both kissed. The next episode begins with Prasad, who shows up at a very expensive hotel, and reunited with his son, daughter and wife, where they were all having fun as a family. Secretly, an unknown message which has the voice of Prasad sends all the hotel staffs home to take a break. That person is revealed to be Shanda, who hacks the entire hotel systems after the staffs left, to get his revenge on Prasad. He traps his son in a pool, and causes an explosion in the hotel which killed Prasad and his family. Caspian takes his mom to the ammunition shop to get her a gun, so she can use to be protecting herself from any more attacks, ever since the incident with his father. Maddie meets with her dad once again in the game, asking him to show him what his world looks like if he is not in the game. And that was how the episode ended. Thank you for watching, guys. If you love animation movies, please subscribe to this channel and keep watching. Bye.
And that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe for more awesome content from Cartoon Crunch, hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Let me know in the comments what your favorite part of the show was, or if there's a cartoon you'd like me to cover next. Thanks for watching, and until next time.